Okay, so in this video I'm going to go over actions you take during the campaign phase, which are called operational actions, and specifically administrative actions, which are ones that don't involve attacking other people broadly. At the beginning of each campaign phase, players should move to the map where their base is located, and then when they get there they'll take turns taking an action and resolving it, or passing the chance to do so, and we'll go around the players until everyone has lost interest or run out of money or whatever. When you're doing this, you can pass and then take an action later, and for example if you did that, the control will probably go past you and get on with the next person because it doesn't really cost you anything. However, during the last 5 minutes of the turn, if you pass, you can't come back into the action phase. You pass out. This is really just to ensure that the turn ends in good time, so that people don't try to stall out till the end of the turn and take a flurry of actions then. You have to do it with sort of 5 minute notice. As it says on this sheet here, each action you take costs $10 per fatigue you have, in addition to any costs listed in the tables. Add a fatigue to your base after taking the action. So Via over here, say, will start the turn with no fatigue on his base and no fatigue, and so his first action you take each turn will be free. At the end of that action, he'll add a fatigue to his base, and the next time he takes an action, he'll have to pay $10 per cube, or $10 to take the action, plus any costs that the action specifically requires. The next time he takes an action, he would add a cube at the end of that action, and the third action he takes would cost him $20 in addition to any other costs, etc., and so on. So it quickly becomes expensive to take lots of actions, and that's quite a break on your activity. Over here again, the next action, I'll go through the actions we have now, under administrative ones. So the first action listed is recruit, which says pay $10 per support that you currently have to increase your support by 1. So we have Via here with his, well, I'm not sure what that's meant to be, with his 4 support. I need to be slightly careful about this, particularly the corner one, which is a little awkward. So he's got 4 support, so to increase his support by 1 he has to pay $10 per support, so $40, or 4 of these shiny gold coins. Ooh, 4 of these shiny gold coins, and that will let him increase his support to 5, like this. There you go, that's pretty easy. Of course, you pay the extra cost for taking an action, so it can get quite expensive to raise it multiple times in a turn. The next action is honest work, which lets you gain $30. This action quickly stops being profitable if you take it multiple times, and also because it increases the cost of your other actions, will make them more expensive, and not be worth doing if you're taking more than a couple of actions as well as the honest work. So be careful you don't cost yourself money by doing things you shouldn't be doing, honestly working. The next action, train, represents equipping your troops with new equipment and teaching them how to use it, practicing shooting and so on. So it costs you ammunition to do it, and that lets you buy an advanced tactics card or draw an advanced tactics card from the advanced tactics deck. You draw them blind, but the advanced tactics cards are generally slightly better than significantly better than the basic cards. So that's an example of a good version of the cavalry charge from the basic cards deck, and an advanced one. They are a massive source of munition expenditure though, which represents the need for ammunition and munitions to keep fighting. But they are probably worth it at some point. Well, definitely worth it at some point. Oops, go away. You draw the card face down and then keep it for later. So you don't get to choose which one you get. You get one at random. The next action we have is relocate your base, and this has 2 flavours to it, and you choose to do one or the other. The first flavour is to move your base somewhere that you can operate that is not enemy controlled, so not to an enemy controlled town. So if you go to Via again, over here, he is in the wilderness, so he can operate along the trails to any of those adjacent spaces. There's 5 adjacent spaces. If you went this way, it's a wilderness area, nobody controls it, so you could go there. This one was controlled by Via a minute ago. This one is controlled by Via, but he only controls the Chile farm. Excuse me. Nobody ever controls a wilderness area, so Via can move his base here. In Cuauhtémoc, the Federales control the town, and they're always hostile to everyone, so they won't let him move in. In this copper mine here, Orozco controls it, but he only controls the mine. Nobody controls the area, so Villa could move here, regardless of what Orozco thinks. In Casas Grandes, Orozco controls the town, so he can choose whether or not he's hostile to Villa. So he can let Villa move his base here, or he can deny him the access if he wants to. And it's up to Orozco when Villa wants to make the action to move, to whether he lets him in or not. If his base is on a railway, then of course he can move it further. So in this case, Orozco, whose base is here, as well as moving to the 4 adjacent wilderness areas, could move it along the railway. This is no use because it hits an enemy-controlled town, but if he goes in the other direction, he controls Ciudad Juarez, so he could move his base all the way up there with this action. The next clause in this action is travel light. If your support is 3 or less, you may do this again, i.e. move twice per action. So that lets you obviously move twice per action. And in this case, you can kind of combine rail and trail and railroad movement because, or operating, because the first action might move you into a railroad. So Villa here, if he's given permission by Orozco to move to Casas Grandes, could use his second travel light if he had low support to move all the way to Juarez, or he could hop to one of the other. Presumably that one is the only one he couldn't get to already, but he could move to another location along the trail. So you can mix the movement if you're taking 2 movements, because each one's checked separately. Instead of doing this normal move action under 2, it says you may instead move your base anywhere on the map that is not enemy controlled. In this case, gain an exhaustion marker. So it's literally what it says. You can go anywhere on the map at all on this map, and you get an exhaustion marker, which is a big white marker that says you can't take any more actions this turn. So this prevents you teleporting a long way and then attacking somebody, but you can do it over a turn break, so you can move at the end of a turn and somebody else would find you there at the beginning of the next turn. It is slightly generous, the movement, but not very, and not worth complexifying, if that's the word. Okay. The last administrative action is called Organised Brigades, and this lets you either create or absorb brigades. I can't think of a reason why you would want to do both in one action, but you can't anyway. So the first one is to create a brigade. If you have 4 or more support, create 1 brigade anywhere you can operate, which it doesn't say, but it will do, paying 1 munition and 1 support. You need at least 4 support to be able to create a brigade because you're detaching some of your force, and if you don't have at least 4, then it's too big a chunk of your forces. And similarly, it says if you have 6 or more support, you just need to pay 1 munition, because if you have 6 support, your forces are big enough that they don't miss the detached brigade and aren't reduced by it. And you create the brigade anyway where you can operate. So again, if I go back to Villa over here, Villa can create a brigade here or here, because brigades have to go with garrisons or on your base. So in theory you could create it on those other spaces, but they're not legal locations for brigades. The other side of this is to remove any brigades in places where it can operate and increases support by 1 for each one he removes, to a maximum of 6. So again, this is the reverse of the previous action. Yeah, if you had a brigade here, could absorb it and increase his support from 5 to 6. The reason this is capped is again because if you have a big force, adding a detachment to it isn't going to significantly increase its strength. So you capped it, increasing it to 6. And that is it for administrative actions. I'll do several more of these talks. The next one will be offensive actions.